Hey, we're talking about marriage restoration today, and hopefully you've read the blog. And I just want to start out by saying that, again, I want to reiterate, you are not a failure if you cannot restore your marriage. We hate divorce for anyone. It's a hard thing to walk through, no matter if it was a difficult marriage or if it was just the wrong marriage. Either way, divorce is not fun and it's hard on everyone involved. However, we have seen many marriages restored, and that's when God can really move in and do some amazing things in the life and the heart of the individual along with the couple together. So our first point that we want to talk about today is you both have to be willing and really ready for change. Unfortunately, in my first marriage, that wasn't the case. That was the goal, but that was not the case. And one person cannot save a marriage alone. And so that's the point that I really want to make them aware of is that it's going to take both the husband and the wife fully being willing to look at themselves, to accept one another's differences, and ultimately put the marriage restoration as the goal, as the long-term goal. This is what I'm aiming for, and I, for me, have to do everything that I can do to reach that goal. And that person can't do that alone. They can do it for themselves, but the marriage ultimately is not going to work if the other party isn't willing to have that same goal in mind.
Yeah, I think the point you're making is extremely valuable. Is if marriage restoration is going to work, you both have to be willing to work on yourself and make the changes within yourself that it's going to take to make the marriage work. Because if both of you are working on yourselves in the right way to make the right things happen, then restoration is possible. To say that both of you are willing to work on it and one of you is working on improving yourself and the other is just working to see to it that they prove that you are always the one in the wrong, that's not going to do it. Both of you being willing to work on it doesn't mean one of you's working to improve and be healthier and the other one's just sitting back pointing a finger telling you all that you need to be doing to yourself. That's not what both working on it means. You both need to be willing to dig in and work on you and what you can control to make yourself healthier for the marriage.
And I think it's important to say at that, as before we move on to the second point, is that with both parties, with both spouses being willing to put 100% out there to work on the marriage, that the restoration is the goal. It's not always going to be perfect. It's not always going to be fun. And you're still going to have a lot of bumps in the road to getting to the end goal. It's going to be hard and it's going to be trying and it's going to tempt your fate and it's going to test you in every area, but you have to stay focused on that goal. Yes. This is what we want.
And you have to be willing to support each other in both getting there. You definitely have to be for one another as both of you are striving towards this restoration, because it can be very, very difficult. And that sort of segues into the second point we were making in the blog, which was it is generally a really good idea to have some kind of a trusted, neutral counselor involved. And it doesn't, we're not saying it necessarily has to be a licensed counselor, but it does need to be somebody that you trust. It does need to be somebody that is competent. If it's somebody that just one of you has chosen, you got to be careful there. You both really need to agree that this is a neutral person that's going to hold both of you accountable, because that's what it's going to take. Having someone in a counseling position is important for a few reasons. One, it helps you uncover the things that you can't see. We know what it's like to be in relationship with people and be blinded by the dynamic of that relationship. We also hopefully know that we have our own blind spots. So having somebody on the outside that's going to be able to look at you and point out the blind spots to each of you as individuals, and even help you see things that you may not see clearly as a couple, is going to be very, very important. So reason number one, it helps uncover things you can't see about yourself and about the couple. Another thing is somebody that is competent and knows what they're doing is going to be able to help you go deeper. A lot of times what seems to be the problem at the surface is not actually the root cause of your troubles. So someone that is able to take you deeper and deeper in discussion and understanding of where the real problems are is going to be very, very critical here. And again, that's somebody that that's practiced at it and knows how to do that. Mm-hmm. And finally, one more thing is they're going to give you new tools and tips to use in the restoration process, and that will hopefully, once you're restored, even allow you to continue on in a healthier marriage than you had to begin with. So they're going to help you form new habits, new ways of thinking, and give you some new tips and ideas to carry on even after the restoration into what will hopefully be a lasting, healthy marriage.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and starting out with the third point, we talk a lot about in the blog about guarding your heart and renewing your mind. And basically, to sum that up in a nutshell is being willing to work towards the goal of marriage restoration and being able to uncover some things within yourself and going deeper, as Clint was talking about, is it can't be surface. Mm-hmm. None of the work that you do in the process of restoring your marriage can be surface. It's not going to work. And so what I mean by guarding your heart and renewing your mind is that our heart, out of it flows the issues of life. So we think in our heart, that is who we are. And that's what the Bible tells us clearly, that our heart is deceptive above all else. And it will deceive us, it will lie to us, it will cause us to think things and feel things about others that have hurt us, disappointed us, let us down. And you've got to guard your heart against all the things that you want to throw back in that person's face. All the thoughts that you have about, how we play arguments out in our mind before we have them. Or if we are inwardly resenting something about our spouse, but we don't have what it takes to talk to them about that, and we're outwardly looking like everything's okay, but in our mind we're playing, the tape is playing of, I can't believe he said that, I can't believe she did that, and so forth and so on. So it is so important to renew your mind and think on positive things, to look at your spouse and to look at yourself with a renewed mind, and to not have critical thoughts, to not go back and play that tape, but to guard your heart against the fears of not being able to go and talk to that other spouse and communicate about what you're dealing with in your thought life. And so what that would look like is, if you are wanting to restore your marriage and up until this point you have been afraid or fearful of communicating what you're thinking and feeling because it always results in an argument, then this is a great time to mature and grow together and say, I'm having these thoughts, I'm having these feelings, and I would like for us to sit down and talk about those things, and not continue to play that tape in your mind that always takes you down a negative road.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be an exercise in vulnerability. You have to be willing to step back into situations that have possibly caused problems or gotten you hurt in the past. But this is how you're going to be able to work through those things together, is you have to be willing to step out in trust and see how it goes. Now, one of the final points in this, and that we'd like to make, is in keeping with what Hannah was just saying, is you've got to have some grace for one another here, because habits are not going to change overnight. Habits are not going to change just because the two of you talk about it and say, yeah, we need to change that and do it differently. You're still going to have those knee-jerk responses. You're still going to have those gut reactions to things. But if you work together, if you will work together and be for one another, you can work each other through the hiccups and through those knee-jerk reactions, and apologize and say, yep, we talked about that. I know I blew that one. Let's start again. So the bottom line is in this is, as you go through the personal end of your growth through this, you've got to let God be the gold standard here. You have to, we've told many couples that what's most important, and we've even told singles, that the most important relationship you're going to have is the one between you and God. This is it. You have to see to it that you're living your life and behaving in such a way that you feel pretty confident God is okay with what you're doing and who you're being. The hope is that your spouse will buy into that, and you guys are both going to be working to be right in God's eyes, which will in turn make you a much healthier, better spouse and partner. So you have to look to God to be the gold standard. What you can't do is let your partner pull you away from that. You can't begin to mirror what they've done, what you've seen them do, because that's the cycle you're trying to break. Oftentimes our behavior is a response to something they've done, or vice versa. So we get caught in this cycle, and what we're encouraging you to do is, to use a cliche, when it starts to get heated, when it starts to get uncomfortable, when it starts to slip back into that old pattern that's caused the problems, for lack of a better way to put it, ask yourself, what would Jesus do? I mean, seriously, what would God have me do in this situation? Because most of the time, the truth is, he would have you respond with much more humility, much more grace, forgiving, and that just unconditional love. And if you're willing to operate from that place and from using God as the gold standard, even if and we hate to go there, but even if the marriage can't be restored and it fails, you will have grown so much as an individual. You will have matured so much as an individual that it will certainly set you up for your next relationship, where hopefully you will find somebody that's more willing to be more equally yoked with you in your pursuit of that godly standard.
And the one thing that I would close with is just remembering that when you and your spouse have decided marriage restoration is our goal, and we're going to do what it takes to see that come to pass, be patient. Be very, very patient, because you did not get to the place that you are overnight, and you're not gonna come to a place of restoration overnight. It's gonna be a process, and so just hang in there and be patient with one another, and ultimately trust the Lord.
Thank you. God bless.